Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. Sorry guys, decent day today, decent day. It was really a nice move at open. It was a great day to understand the amateur and trend move, which we will cover as well. And then there was, SMCI was nice trade at the open. We will discuss that as well, getting ready for the NVIDIA earnings tomorrow. Anyways, before I start, just a quick introduction to anybody who's new to me, who's new to my community, new to my Twitter, or new to my YouTube. All these trade recaps and all these teachings are from the trade ideas that we trade in the community, or anything I share on Twitter, X, or anything I share with you guys in previous YouTube videos, be it a day trade, swing trade, or be it investment. So we do not trade random. We trade a repeatable system. We trade repeatable setups. Repeatable system. My system, thousands of traders across the world use it to trade consistently day in, day out. Every morning in the pre-market, me and my team, we create a game plan for the day based upon any earnings, upgrades, downgrade, any news plays, any market plays. Market plays are the plays which are dependent on the market, and then any news plays which have the news. Right in front of you, you see the game plan for today. There are a bunch of stickers on our game plan: CAVA, Lilly, T-Com, BMO, Apple, Costco, and a bunch of other names, Hershey's. So these were our game plan, and we'll go through them and see how they panned out. Not all of these stickers will trigger a long or short, but anything that triggers, and we try to take that trade, and we'll discuss that as well. In addition to that, I also share something called Ripster Day 2, Day 3 setups, which is one of the strategy that I invented to trade anything which had news in last few days, and we have a repeatable system to trade those as well. In addition to that, we also have our daily levels to trade the marketplace. Marketplace are the plays which are dependent on the market, which move with the market. Usually these are the semiconductors or SPY, QQQ, IWM ETFs, and Apple, Microsoft, AMD, NVIDIA, Netflix, the big Mag 7. So we share these levels with the community in the morning so that they can trade on their own using these levels and our repeatable system. In addition to that, we also share some crypto stocks like CoinMSTR and CLSK. Based upon these levels, you can trade these stocks. We also share some low float watch lists as well. Low floats were not doing much lately, so nothing to recap there much. But I'm usually on voice first few hours of the market open, and I'm also share my ideas, my thoughts if I'm taking any trades. Even if I don't take any trades, I guide my community through all the trades we have on our game plan for the day. I will show you my timestamp comments on both lot of these setups in my recaps. Just trying to keep the today's video short, so you can watch the previous videos if you want to understand more about our system or more introduction to what we do, right? I cover every day. I cover these recaps, time-stamped comments, and trade ideas, and show you how the repeatable system setup work. And I try to teach you any specific concept that's relevant for that day. So, anyways, let's start with the first play of the day. So we're going to quickly go through our SPY QQQ trade. How did we handle SPY QQQ today? So remember, every day the market has a different personality. Sometimes it's gapping up, sometimes it's gapping down, sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's an inside day, sometimes it's an outside day. So every day it has a personality, and based upon that personality, which is a repeatable personality, market has same 3, 4, 5 personalities, which it repeats every day. During all the trading sessions, and we know these repeatable patterns, we recognize them, and that's how we try to trade them, day trade them, and try to make some profit, making sure our risk is less, and we make some good trades there. So let's see what SPY was doing today. So as you see, SPY today was gapping down. So our basically, when it was gapping down, we look at the pre-market lows. That's our first indication on what we're going to do. The levels on SPY that I gave this morning was 558.40, 472.64. Those were kind of our support zones right here. So initial move is always an amateur move. If you want to learn more about amateur move, watch my previous videos, or you can come to the community, or you can go to my free website, or also you can watch my webinars. So initially, when SPY was amateur move was down, that was bearish. So amateur move was down, that was bearish. Qs actually after the amateur move started to reject. So we were initially bearish. You see this big red candle. SPY was holding up. QQQ was initially bearish. So we were initially short. I usually recommend any new traders to not trade first 10-15 minutes because those are amateur moves. But I do try to trade amateur moves because I can pivot very fast if it's going from bearish to bullish. Anyways, as you see today, initially we were bearish. SPY was not breaking pre-market lows, so there was no reason to short SPY. But Qs was breaking pre-market lows. It actually did fade like almost $1 from the rejection. So as you see, we were initially short on QQQs. But as I covered in my previous videos, we watch VIX very carefully. VIX tells us what the market wants to do, and then suddenly VIX started to reject. So you see, we were short in the morning. You see, I was short in first 10 minutes, and then we were dipping down, and then suddenly VIX started to reject. And that's when I started to warn the community that we are looking at some rejections on VIX. The market might curl. We might get a reversal here. So be ready to close your shorts. You see at 9:50, I'm talking about the closing the shorts over 512s and moving our bias to the bullish bias. So as you see that, give the VIX early heads up, and as soon as it's turned the 512 clouds, that's bullish. The 512 clouds bullish, and you see we have this nice megaphone kind of a bullish pattern that's setting up on SPY, and this was the breakout on the SPY, and we were long, right? We were short, but this was the warnings to close the short, right? I even mentioned to close the shorts into 10 a.m. and then as soon as we push over 512s, that's your long. You get the long pullbacks, then you get the downtrend breakout, and then you push towards your target on the long side. So you see the downside move on amateur move was not much, but the upside move was a decent, $3, almost $3 move, and on the QQQs, decent $3 to $4 move. So this is the move where you make money. You waited for the amateur move. Even if you were in amateur move short, you cover, you get long, and you can see my timestamped guidance. That's how I guided the community towards our 562 target on SPY and towards our the high of the day, pre-market highs target on the QQQs. Into the MTF clouds. You see here SPY is also breaking out over MTF clouds. That gives you even more conviction. So that was a decent trade. Options went decent profit on options this morning on the long side for the community. And when this long was happening, a lot of stocks were starting to move bullish. A lot of semiconductors were starting to move bullish. That's how you will see that Nvidia started to push with the market exact that time. So you could trade the Nvidia with the market, and then other names like ARM started to move as well. There are a bunch of other names from our watch list of daily marketplace. So the important thing to learn today is, guys, identify the importance of pre-market lows and importance of the cloud curl, importance of the trend move, importance of first 10-15 minutes. You see, once we get out of this range, which we are confirmed bullish, so this is confirmed bullish. It won't happen every time. Sometimes we will reject here and we will go to a chop. But as you see, the Ripster clouds were held. So you are long here. These are the pullbacks you long, and you trade your long calls, or you can trade your SPXL or any leverage ETFs and make some money going long here. So decent long, if you bought an option, let's say 0DT for $1,000, you easily had 100% return on some of your lottos to have a nice profitable morning and get done by the time we hit our target. You see my target was 562, and that's exactly where SPY rejected, and we were out of our morning trades. And after that, it was just a slow burn sideways, nothing much. This was all midday chop, but the main trade was this morning reversal. You can see that. So I can show you here the timestamp even on Twitter. I try to guide my followers. So you see that, right? I'm showing this bullish pattern, and you see what's happening right here. We're breaking out. You see that step by step, right? So I guide that in the community on the voice as well. So you see how we are moving on this SPY move, right? How we are moving on the SPY move. So that was the long trade on the SPY QQQ this morning. So beautiful in the community, and hopefully you guys learned how to manage this personality when we are gapping down on the market and try to long with the VIX, with the clouds, with the pre-market lows. And it was after this when we curled here. You don't even need the clouds here. If you see this, when we curled right over here, this is your long, and you make money long. So let's talk about the semiconductors. It's not just the market, right? So the market and the semiconductors, they all move together. On that reversal, you take SOXL long, you take, SEMI's SMH long. Everything works in a sync. Look here, everything is working in the sync from the clouds. You could take any one of these on longs. That's what I teach in the community, and there's opportunities to make money there, right? Some of the tickers were not moving nicely, so you avoid them. You could see that AMD was choppy, and that's what I continuously guide on the voice, right? But some names like Taiwan Semi, beautiful bounce from MTF Cloud, you can see that, right? And then there was AVGO, which curled over 512s, beautiful trade there, right? ARM, which was a beautiful curl. So you could literally long any of those, or you could long just SOXL long, and with this market, but you need to know what market is doing. You can't blindly long them, but you can long any of these semiconductor ETFs, semiconductor stocks with the market, and that's what we did in the community for the nice long winner. All right, let's look at the next one. Next one we're going to look at is Apple. So let's see what was happening with Apple. So Apple also had a news today, right? So there was a news on Apple that all the banks reiterated their bullish note. The new CFO came and a bunch of banks said that's bullish, we're still bullish on Apple. So Apple was a high watch today. So Apple was really high watch today, and as soon as I saw Apple at the market pushing, I told everyone that Apple long is good. You can see that Apple is pushing over the MTF clouds, so that confirms the long. You don't really need to have the bottom. You can long here, your stops right here, 225.52s on the pre-market lows, and the Apple went on to move into all our targets. The first target was 227.50, then my next target was 228. We actually pushed to 229 for nice move, $2.50 move on Apple for us. Even at 11 a.m. told everybody to roll to the next options, and Apple after that nicely pushed to 229 as well on that move with the market. So you can see how you can trade everything in sync with the market long. And I did give the levels on the Apple in the pre-market, so you can also use that for your long perspective. You see how we broke out of 226.70 and 227.34, and we continue to push. Next one we're going to talk about is Tesla. So talking about Tesla was a short in the community this morning. Let's see how it was a short. Let's see. So again, my levels we provided in the pre-market on Tesla here. Let's see. I can probably go into my screenshot and show you that. Let's see. Let's look here on the Tesla. Yeah. So you see that, right? Tesla, my levels were 212, 211, and initially started to push in the amateur move. When you see these rejections, then it's bearish, right? This rejection confirms bearish. Then the breakdown of this support pivot confirms bearish. You can take your short and put your stops up above 3450 clouds. And just when we were fading, the news, we have a new tool in the community called Ghost Board. The founder of the Ghost Board is in our community, and we have it on screen share. And he also alerted that there's a lot of bearish flow coming on Tesla. That gives you more confidence. I do not care about a flow that's against my trend. If trend is bearish, I care about a bearish flow. I don't look at the bullish flow unless it's a reversal. Then I will look at bullish flow. But anyways, you can see that I told everybody bearish, no long. I did tell everybody to short it under the MTF. So there's MTF, there is multi-time frame clouds, then there's pre-market lows. So high conviction short, right? Lot of pivots right here together. So that gives you high conviction short, and on top of it you get flow that gives you another high conviction short. You can see I continuously told my community short, okay, short under MTF, still heavy, more fades. And Tesla went on to fade from 2012 to 207, right? It's a $5 short, depending on where you entered. There was a high conviction Tesla winner for the community. Really nice win. You could risk like a dollar, and you could make like $5 per share profit. If you risk $1,000, you could make that $5,000 there. All right, let's now talk about SMCI. So let's see what was SMCI doing this morning. So SMCI was gapping down on Heidenberg, the Heidenberg short report. So I was interested in, let's go see what was pre-market plan on SMCI. The pre-market plan on SMCI was trade versus 500. So that was the plan. If it stays over 500, you long over 500, risking the 500. The breakout pivots was 525, and then there's 540. So Usually I'm very wary of any, unless you are taking a C minus setup, which is against the trend, because you don't know, we could easily reject here and fade all day. So you see that amateur move push, that's what I told community, that they would ideally push it at open. When the amateur move held up, that gave me a signal that it's not going to fade now, right? The first rejection told us it's bearish, that's fine, it's an amateur move, and then you see the buyers come in, and that's when I told the community on the voice that initially we had talked about the amateur move long, but after the amateur move long, when I see this going, that's when I told the community that it's the buyers are coming in, it's going to push higher. And it pushed higher from that 525 pivot towards 535. I did not really trade the bottoms, I also have a swing on that, but I did trade once it was pushing over the clouds, and that's when I told everybody 512 curling at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. 512 curl, the stock goes from 535 to 555. I told everybody to move your stops up to 535, so that's what your stops, and then from that stops we push to 555. There was a big seller on 555, so I told everybody to lock that SMCI on 555. We could see the sellers, you can see the seller from the candle. We look at the book map, and if you see, the resistance was just the yesterday's lows. So yesterday's lows acted as a resistance on SMCI. So this is an important concept to learn. Support becomes resistance. That really helps you long term to trade in the markets. So beautiful trade in SMCI. It's gapping down. I didn't like that it's under the 3450 clouds. I wanted to see close higher. There's always a risk. Let's see if the company comes in and defends it. If the company doesn't defend it, we can be weak tomorrow and it can be heavy tomorrow again. All right, let's look at the next one. Next one we're going to look at is PDD. So PDD was our day 2 short. This was mainly a guidance by Win in the community. So you can see that PDD has support of 98, resistance was 100. Lot of profit targets were lowered by Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. All of them lowered their profit targets on PDD. Right, so PDD was a short. Win came in the pre-market. He's talked about he's going to watch the shorts, and you see that how it pushed into the clouds and rejected. When you see this candle, 100 rejections, you put your stops at 100, you short versus 100, and then you trade it short. I told everybody at 10 a.m. that it's still a short, right? It's choppy, bearish. It's bearish. It's going to take its time to fade, but definitely no longs. The buyers at 965, 95. What that means is that I'm ideally expecting it to fade towards 960, 96 and 95s. And it can tomorrow even go to 90s if it breaks this 95. Very, very, very bearish. 95 was my target, and we were almost there at that target here, all the way down, right? Then 100 was a big psychological level to trade with, 100 psych on PDD. So next one we're going to discuss is CAVA. So CAVA was little, it took its sweet time. It was little confusing, or it was taking its time in the morning. I tried the amateur move. I started very small size on the amateur move right here, but when it was rejecting the clouds, I got out. I was like, it's rejecting the clouds. But when, again, the same concept as SMCI, as soon as the gap up tries to hold this pre-market lows, I know that it can push, and I have clear defined risk at 114. You see that? So that's why I said that remove the starter longs. Of course we removed it, but when I saw it getting bullish, I again turned the long side. Again, this is how I traded it. Many traders held their longs with 114 risk or pre-market lows risk. That's fine. But when it was pushing, I gave the entry at 116. I told everybody to have your stops at 114. And you can see my timestamped guidance all the way towards 118 and 120. So we got a $4 per share move when we risked $2 on PDD, on CAVA, sorry. So that was the CAVA gap down reversal with the cloud system. You see how I hesitated initially because my system is still bearish. Then I need to get more confirmation because it could easily reject here and fade. Then I will lose a lot of money. So it's better for me to just cut my starters. Or best is don't just trade the amateur moves. You can wait. You can wait for the confirmation of this bounce and then get back in, right? So you can see all the timestamp comments here on CAVA from me. Ours was 1 risk and reward was 4. All right, the next one we're going to look at is BMO. So BMO was also our news plan today. BMO was a short. Let's go back, look at our news. Our game plan in the pre-market. The pre-market game plan on BMO was bearish bias, no volume, but bearish bias to short. So as soon as BMO, I see the rejections right away on the BMO, I told people short. Ideally, most of the traders are already short. You see the MTF clouds breaking down, daily MTF 50, daily MTF 20, everything breaking down is a confirmed bearish for me. Now it's all about your entry. So you hit the pops, and the BMO short, my first target 83.10 was a daily support. If you see here, there was a daily support at what was it, 83.10. So there was a daily support here, so it was trying to hold it, but it never reclaimed the bullish. I was idly going to stop out over 84s, but it never reclaimed it, and that faded nicely all the way to give us a nice win on BMO for a nice short from the morning ads, almost more than a $2 short there. Next one we're going to look at is Lilly. So Lilly was a nice long today in the community. We had a news on Lilly this morning. Lilly launches a single dose vials for weight loss, neutral bias, short under the clouds, long over it, check the MTF. But as soon as the Lilly pushes over the MTF cloud, that gives me a confidence that it's a long, right? So it's a long. Lilly is a confidence long. That's why I tell everybody pull back long on the pullbacks. And you can enter right away, risking the MTF clouds. And then the Lilly pushed from, my target was 970, 972, and Lilly easily pushed towards my targets of that I gave towards 972, and then 965 calls went 50% there. But you do see Lilly has been rejecting this all-time highs. It's like a triple top now, or like 4 times. Amazon was another short in the community. That was, in the morning it was heavy. The whole market was bouncing, but SMCI, Amazon was still bearish. You can see the Amazon levels, 174.40, 174.30. Once those levels gave up, it was completely bearish. My main motive when I guide my community in these trades is not only to short, to just make sure they are not longing it, right? There's no long in Amazon. If you try to long Amazon right here, you lost money. So that's why I tell the community no longs, right? So that's that's what we see, right? To save the money, to preserve the money, and not get losing your money on the short side. On the short side, it was easy fade. There was an easy couple dollar fade there. So next one we're gonna look at is Costco. So Costco was it was from our game plan. So Costco, from the game plan, let's look at Costco. So the Costco game plan, there's an upgrade from Oppenheimer. Not really a great analyst, but regardless, it was an upgrade. The resistance was 894. The chart was at all-time highs. If I look at the all-time high chart, you see that this was an all-time high breakout. So when there's news, remember, when there's news and the chart is at all-time highs, especially if it's consolidating, it's always a good gap and go. That's what I have learned over the years. It's always good gap and go. Remember that teaching. And that's when I saw the Costco. Most of the community was already long on Costco because I gave those levels of breakout, and Costco pushes over those levels. See how the amateur move. You see how the amateur move 10 minutes. So you can ignore the amateur move, and then you get back in right over here. And when I saw it, it was already closing in on like right here on the 89900 levels, breaking out of that. And then I gave the targets 905, 910 targets. Then when it hit 910, I told everybody to roll to 915s, and then we slowly pushed to 918. So beautiful winner in the community today, Costco. You can see how I gave the guidance in the pre-market, the reasoning for the guidance, the pivots, and as soon as I see it, because sometimes I can't see everything, I'm managing a lot of trades for the community, guiding them and doing my own trades as well. But so proud of the community that nailed Costco this morning. All right, let's look at next one. The next one was Hershey's, HSY. So Hershey's was on our news today. Let's look at what's the game plan on Hershey's. Hershey's was, so let's look at Hershey's. Let's see here. So Hershey's was city downgrades to sell, weak demand, bearish bias to short the pops, right? So I already gave this guidance in the pre-market. And when I see that confirmed bearish, that's when I tell the community, you see pop, fade, 512s breaking, bearish, right? So bearish right here, confirmed bearish. So that was another $3 short, since I mentioned the short in the community. Beautiful short trade, easy setup. You can see how it's breaking the MTF clouds, and It's a beautiful, easy short for the community here, right? Easy. Look, when something breaks 50 EMA on daily chart, that's always very bearish, right? So that's how we cover through our MTF clouds. 50 EMA system has given us so many shorts, right? So daily 50 EMA on daily charts is very important. We use our MTF clouds for 50-55 to find these opportunities during the day. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys had a good day and learned a lot. If you guys want to trade with me, join the community. Do not come for the alerts, but make sure you join for the guidance and all the tools we provide. Our Labor Day sale is going to come, so make sure you use that opportunity to come join and trade with a lot of smart traders in the community. Take care. Bye.